So you say you saw the Snyder Cut. So what did you think
After long ado, I finally saw the Snyderverse, and I have absolutely no problem with saying, for the first time, you were 100% right.
What part?
You said that, and I'm paraphrasing. You said that it wasn't necessarily greater than the Josh Whedon version. It was a little bit different, but not necessarily better. It was just different. It wasn't necessarily great or anything like that. They were both not. Neither one were really that great, but that's basically paraphrasing what you said at that particular time. Was I wrong? Am I wrong with what I said?
That's about right.
Okay, I watched it. I took notes, and the problem is with a lot of fans, especially when you're younger, you see something and then you have one vision of it, then you see something else, and because they do a certain thing, they tweak certain things there, you think it's, oh wow, this is great. It's not necessarily great. It's just that both of them, Whedon and Snyder, they did certain things right. Overall, they still had the whole process wrong because both of them were very good action adventure movies that happened to have superheroes in it, and they didn't do very good with the superheroes. That's the bottom line with both versions of it. I understood certain things that Whedon did that they're complaining about.
Me too.
Like that family, that Russian family, that really annoying Russian family that was there. And I had to read up a little bit behind it also to understand it. Whedon actually improved the movie he improved part of the movie with that. Every time I keep going on and on about they lose the vision of who the superheroes are, Whedon actually made an attempt to do that with that Russian family. They were only there for Flash and Superman to save them, right. which is what you're supposed to see superheroes do in the damn movie.
Right.
They're supposed to save people, but he didn't do it really well that you could understand them being there or that you could even like them.
Yeah, because it was a forced insert because he needs certain things that needed to happen within somebody else's story. So it's hard when you didn't build the skeleton, but you're responsible for all the body parts. It's kind of like, I'm stuck in this frame.
Exactly, it wasn't his vision, so he had to insert something to make that vision right. But it wasn't his, and it was like, okay, this is the idea I have. Let me insert it in here, but it's not the perfect. You stuck a square into a rectangle, and you managed to kind of like hammer it inside there.
Right.
You get the idea. You filled up most of the spaces, but you really didn't. But a lot of younger viewers or people who don't really understand the characters don't understand that's what he did. Because in the Snyderverse, it was nothing but fight. Okay, this is that character. This is his backstory. Fight. And that's all. But then again, you have to look at it like this, Jay. A lot of people just like these superhero movies just for fights. Do you remember growing up, there were kids who only collected comic books because of the fight scenes?
Right.
So they didn't read the damn book. They saw Hulk versus Thing. They had no idea that the thing was going to change at the end of the book. We're going on, oh, Hulk and Thing are fighting, and they don't know anything else about the book.
They want the battle royale.
That's all they wanted. And that was Snyderverse, except that and I feel bad saying this, I hope I'm wrong, but with Ray Fisher, he may have a beef only because Josh Whedon chopped up his entire stuff that's in the movie.
Yeah.
So if I'm him, of course I'm gonna have a huge beef with that man, because nobody knows anything about the backstory to me. They just you threw like about an hour of my shit on the floor.
Right.
So,
and it was the best part. A lot of it was, that was tied everything together. It kind of gave the movie heart in a way, because everything
and
else
it made
was
you
so
care
cold.
more.
Because everybody else was so cold about everything, because really, even though it was beautiful looking, and the action was more like you said, but it's like crazy crap. Like Wonder Woman was a murderer, and she did more damage than the bomb did. She threw a bomb out the building just to do her bracelets, and then blew up the building anyway. And killed the guy.
Jay, that comes back to like Man of Steel stuff I said when I complained about how they killed Zod. Forget what happened in the movie. These are your creators. You could create any ending you want to that to make the story go bad, make it go well or make it go bad. With Man of Steel, with Zod, they could have done something different to end it. With that particular scene you're talking about in Justice League, you could have done something else that wouldn't have put the kids in as much danger, because all that stuff, her jumping in front of the kids with the bracelets and all that other stuff, that looked cute. But
yeah,
there are other things you could have written to make it where the kids wouldn't have been in danger, where the bomb wouldn't have blown up as close. It was just, it's your choice of stuff to do for the drama. You can still keep it interesting, but you don't have to use that.
Yeah.
So ultimately, Snyder, it doesn't rate any much better than Josh Whedon's version of it, except that it was longer and it explained a few things more. But when you look at it further, and the ending was just like appalling. Like the prologues, those things were horrible. Like, this is what I'm looking forward to in the future. If I thought the movie was dark, this crap that you want to come out with in the future is even worse. Cancel my ticket. I don't even want to watch this. There's nothing enjoyable about that. For some reason, you like having Superman dark. That's without giving the spoiler. When you look at Justice League, also, I'm looking at who they chose to lead it. You completely screwed up who the characters were and how they existed. You decide to use, I can do the spoiler on this one. You chose to bring Martian Manhunter in later, and you make me wonder, why didn't you use him in the beginning? Why didn't you use him in Man of Steel if he actually existed like that? He's as powerful as a Kryptonian. You could have actually used him, so it made me a little bit angry.
Yeah.
But you have Batman as the person trying to put the team together. So you have the brooding loner of the group trying to get everybody together on that.
Right.
That made no sense.
Right.
Absolutely none.
Yeah.
If anything, you could have had Wonder Woman try that part, because she's a little bit more, but even she's only a little bit better of a choice of a leader than Batman is. Batman is a loner. Yeah. And in addition to that, you could have had a lot more fun in the movie with him brooding and not very, very friendly and doing what he does best. Analyzing and, giving orders, and then you realize that he actually makes a lot of sense with his orders, but he's just a dick. And you do better using the character like that than having him try to bring everybody together. That's not what he's like. I found it really interesting that when he was talking to Aquaman about doing this 20 years, like Aquaman never heard of him. In 20 years, Aquaman never heard of Batman. And in the 20 years Batman was doing this, nobody has any question. Nobody has ever heard of him. What happened to your partners in those 20 years?
Right.
Because there should have been a Batman and Robin. So nobody in the world ever heard of Batman and Robin, and nobody even wonders what happened to Robin.
Well, I'm assuming they know. Well, maybe the other heroes don't know, but he had Robin's costume in the Batcave where he killed Robin, and the Joker killed him.
So all those heroes were inside there. Nobody asked what this costume was for. And once again, he's a hero. He's like beating up bad guys. So that had to make some type of news. He's not just an urban myth.
To be honest, I don't know what this Batman is, because I can't assume that his origin is the origin that I know, because he's unrecognizable to me in the Snyderverse. So I'm not even assuming he was even ever considered a good guy. He might have just been an evil, Punisher, vigilante kind of type guy. Who knows?
Well, we know he couldn't really have been a hero because he watched the Phantom Zone villains destroy all of Metropolis. All he did is look up at the sky and hold a child in his arms, and want to kill Superman afterwards for his part on it. But it makes you rethink. It makes you think. They're yelling about they want the Snyderverse, as a DC universe. The Snyderverse here, DC characters in Snyderverse are nothing. They sat back and watched an invasion and did nothing. You can't tell me that Deathstroke was the only superpowered person, and John Jones were the only superpowered people operating in the Snyderverse version of the DC universe. You can't tell me that. And if they weren't, that means all of DC characters are crap in the Snyderverse, universe.
Well, we know there's lanterns, there's gods and stuff like that, because they showed like on the earlier time when Darkseid came to Earth, and it showed all the people all over joining in together. But and
we also know that the lanterns are universal. So Where's Earth's protector in the Snyderverse? And where are the rest of the Lanterns with Darkseid attacking Earth? Because it wasn't just, like a regional thing. I mean, the universe had to have known what was going on.
Yeah.
They're trying too hard to localize all these superheroes, and it's not really working. I mean, when you decide that you want to build it up further, you're going to make those heroes look like, well, what were you doing when these huge threats were going on?
Yeah, but like I said, this movie, it being called Snyder Cut, is correct, and that's the correct way to title it, because it's his vision of the Justice League. Because this is not the normal world. It's almost like he had these moments and things he wanted to put in there, but they're kind of out of context and the characters aren't correct. So the thing about it is, if this movie was something else with some other characters that we wasn't familiar with, I would have no problem with it. It's just the fact that it's bumping against everything that I know. Not enough backstory for me to know who I'm dealing with actually. And then the backstory I do know that I got to put in there because he didn't give it, it doesn't jive with what I'm seeing. So it's too much conflict. It's too much conflict in just storytelling. It's like, if you do something like this, either it needs to match up with something I know, since you're not going to show or tell me, or it got to be something I don't recognize at all, and then I have to just accept what you give me.
Like I told you in the very beginning, this is a very good movie that just happened to have superheroes in it. It's a good action movie,
right? Nice
action, but it's, just don't put the superheroes in it, and it'll make more sense. It'll get a 10 out of 10 if you don't say that you have Superman in it.
Because it's just moment to moment stuff, and it's cool to see the moments. Like I thought it was cool with Barry Allen's, saving Iris and all that kind of stuff, and that was just a beautiful moment and stuff, which is cool.
But that was a nice moment. But looking at okay, I'm kind of messed up for saying this. I'm kind of looking at a man who's like old enough to be Iris's daughter saving him, because I still can't get past that particular Barry Allen. Whoever that kid is that played Barry Allen, that's the wrong person. That's some horrible miscasting.
Ezra Miller. He's a different kind of dude anyway. But
no, I mean, I like him, but like I told you before, I mean, I've said it on the podcast, but they looked at Spider-Man and decided to insert that in the Justice League because that's who he acted like. Yeah. That was Peter Parker. Yeah. Not Barry Allen. Barry Allen is a lot more seasoned, a lot more mature. Even the version that they have on TV is more mature, more focused. This guy is gabbing and running his mouth and but he sounded like MCU's Peter Parker.
Yeah. Well, they needed a funny guy, so they put him in there. But but like I said, all stuff is out of order, and I understood in a way why Josh Whedon didn't leave it in there. Because the thing about it is, like I said, there's a whole bunch of cool stuff in the Snyder's cut, but it's almost kind of like, okay, like this Barry Allen, for sure he's different, because I'm trying to figure out, like, at the end, he's trying to make his dad proud, and he got that job, and he told his dad, he got the job to work at a forensic crime lab, like he's, he got a real job, right? And his dad's so proud of him, which I thought was powerful and beautiful. But I'm like, is that the same job where he had the accident that gave him the powers in the first place? That crime lab? So where did this Barry Allen get his powers from then? If it wasn't from that crime lab and that job that he got at the end of the movie?
The creators of the movie didn't take that into effect. They didn't take that into account. It's something that's simple. They could have kept it with the natural origins.
Like I said, I enjoyed the breadth of that movie because it was just like an artist being an artist and he just doing his thing. And I'm just watching a painter paint and just seeing, just a flow of consciousness that may or may not make sense because it's just an abstract piece. I appreciate it for that. But if you really had to take it as a movie, then it's rough. It's really rough.
I won't shit on his creation, on his vision. I looked at it and I saw
it's a beautiful artistic
it's a beautiful
movie.
Action adventure movie. Yeah. All of his stuff with DC has been Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, and Justice League. They were very good action adventure movies, but they did not really connect with who he had made them, for. Yeah. It didn't really connect. Whedon made an attempt. He made an ill attempt of drawing us more into who the characters were. Right. But it wasn't his vision, so it didn't really work right. I like how Whedon inserted Superman better than Snyder did. It seemed like the first time we saw Superman smile in any of the movies was with Josh Whedon. Yeah. Because he came in and he started off talking to a kid and that made me feel good. Like, wow, a kid identifying with Superman, like, I want to be like you, which is the way Superman was when we grew up.
Yeah.
You know, man flying and do all these things. Kids want to be like him. Okay. But he's smiling with the kid. I'm like, wow, that's nice. Then you fast forward to later on in the movie when he saves somebody's life. I forget who it was who he saves. And you actually see like a lighter moment with Superman and him racing Flash to try and save the family. I'm like, okay, this is what the Justice League does. They save lives. Okay, that's one of the things that I found missing. Right. But the whole mood changed when Superman came in, and it seemed like the Justice League. It didn't seem like a bunch of people just fighting crime. It just seemed like the Justice League. A little bit more than what Snyder did. So my complete verdict is trash both of them and bring somebody in. I'm saying that really.
No, I know what you mean.
Bring somebody in who completely understands all the characters. At the same time, build on, you know, your second tier characters and make this a DC universe that people could look forward to, and they can see certain things and they're like, oh wow, that's going to happen. Sometimes it could be predictable, but it's nice to have predictable and accurate than what we've been having right now.
Yeah.
So I'm happy I saw it, because only a little. It didn't seem like a 4-hour movie all the time. Only a couple of times it seemed like a 4-hour movie. Like, this shit is just long. Mm-hmm. But it's just the painful part was the characters not following what they're supposed to do. Right. You know, Aquaman I think was probably the most interesting, but then even they're breaking it with him too. Yeah. You know, you have all of DC's, you know, characters just irresponsible and selfish, and just, you know, they need to start all over again. And considering that Shazam is a part of the universe, I'm just wondering, like, you know, all the stuff going on, you couldn't find him. It's
no, that's fair. Like I said, it was rough for me too. Like I said, as a artistic piece and an artist being able to express himself fully the way he wanted to do it, I think it's beautiful to see.
I agree.
As like a straightforward movie, yeah, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't work on so many different levels, as far as like continuity, story, characters, and stuff like that. It worked out that it came out on streaming. It worked out that format of him changing the aspect ratio and all that. He did a lot of, like I said, that was just somebody's personal project, and to see it as a personal project, it was cool to see, because you don't ever get a chance to see that raw of a person's vision for something that deals with other people's money. Because a lot of times that'd be on your own dime. You would never have that kind of money to do all that. So the fact that he did a big budget superhero movie the way he wanted to, and it's not even like continuity for what people expect. So to even have a side take on characters that are beloved by people, and do your interpretation that most people wouldn't understand. He did something that never happened. So yeah, for that, it was amazing to see.
He gets major credit for all of that. The only thing he loses a lot of points for is, you know, you did not study the characters involved enough to really make them work. You needed to really study them, and I mean, to the point where you were talking to them in your sleep, and not reinvent them for your own side project. You needed to really utilize them and make people remember who the fucking legends are. I mean, Marvel has some very interesting, you know, characters, the Avengers, Spider-Man, all of that, but DC has the legends. Yeah. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, all their characters are legends. And you need the crowd, you need your audience to realize why they are legends. That's what your job should have been.
Yeah, and I do blame Warner Brothers, because I heard too, and it makes sense that what they basically wanted to do was Superman basically, and all that stuff tied with it. They wanted the Superman to be like Batman. So
I saw
that kind of mandate. That makes sense that they would get him to do his version of those characters, because that's he's about that. He's about that, but almost not even understanding, but just seeing, because somebody not knowing better, they would think Batman was just cold. hid in the dark all the time and just kind of whatever. And he is, that is part of him, but there's other parts of him too that you wouldn't, a novice wouldn't notice or know. So it's almost kind of like he got the cliff notes and like, okay, I could do Batman. Well, yeah, you're doing a surface Batman or one that people thought was popular. Like everybody's inspired and like The Dark Knight Returns. Was it Dark Knight Returns?
By Frank Miller?
Frank Miller. So everybody loves that. But then if you knew how the context of that story was to the mythos of Batman, it would mean so much more to you. Because he earned becoming that. It wasn't just like that was just like that's how he is. No, it came from history of times changing. He turned into that. It's like somebody earned being jaded versus just being a jaded person. It's two different things, you know.
I like that. That's very profound. I think a lot of people are in awe with Frank Miller's Batman because they look at the glamorous parts of it. If you look at Dark Knight Returns, yeah, he kind of has that old what's the guy's name? The Clint Eastwood thing. You could tell that Frank Miller adopted that attitude, you know, Death Wish, and Clint Eastwood. He kind of molded those together and made the Dark Knight with that. But with each of those, when you really read the book, you forget the things that he built on, the detective work, right? You know, that those keen instincts. He wasn't just make my day and make my day punk. He wasn't on just like catchphrases like that. Granted, he can kick your ass, and he's, you know, he develops it to be mean as hell. But I think that was a necessary meanness because you have a character that has no superpowers. You have to have a persona. You have to have an image that people will fear. But he's not just all imagery like that. He's super intelligent. He knows politics. He knows criminal minds. He knows all of those things. And he put all of that to work in those little things that people overlook. And they just go by the make my day Batman that you see too much in Frank Miller stuff. People go to, with what you said about Snyder. I had seen some YouTube video, and they were talking about they wanted Snyder to do what the Nolans did with the Dark Knight trilogy. Problem is, the Dark Knight trilogy had to do with Batman basically in another universe, because it wasn't the Batman that we grew. I rapidly realized that after they did the Joker, that this is not the same Batman that is the mainstream DC universe one. Right. Because they kept referring to somebody stepping in and taking care of crime, so that there's no need for Batman. And the Batman mainstream stuff never had to deal with that. Right. He was fighting crime, and he wasn't waiting for somebody to step in and carry the mantle so he doesn't have to do it anymore, so he can just go off into the sunset. Right. That timeline was basically he's Batman for what, 3 years? If that. This is what the Nolans focused on. The first movie was different. You know, they introduced a Scarecrow and a Ra's al Ghul, and you thought that, oh wow, this is going to be a completely good mythos, but it immediately became a man in a bat suit who saw his parents die, and he's trying to do what the cops should be doing, and he's waiting for somebody to step in it. No, because those were the focuses of him and Alfred bickering all the time. That irked the hell out of me. Mm. So when they did the Dark Knight trilogy, it was a completely different take on Batman that you shouldn't have given the light to Superman, because Superman is not a dark character. He's more of a light character. He's more of a character of hope, where Batman is not that type of character. So what you said is true. Warner Brothers was wrong for having Snyder try to copy that in the first place. Yeah, it wasn't. And the Dark Knight trilogy wasn't something that you should even look at as mainstream Batman stuff. If you wanted to do that, you should look at the Tim Burton stuff. That was a little bit more of, you could have built on that and had, because it didn't treat it like he was just there just for that one character or for that one villain. Right. You were treating him like, okay, he's here, and whoever comes out there, Batman's going to take care of. That was more Tim Burton's vision than the Nolan's version. Not saying the Nolan's version wasn't good, but for the trilogy that he created, it was very good, but for that particular concept, and it wasn't an ongoing, continuous, vision that he had for that. There was a beginning, middle, and an end for Batman with the Nolan version. Right. Where the Tim Burton was open-ended, where you can see, okay, who's going to come out next? And
Right.
you complicate that with kids who just want to see fights, and it's bad.
Yeah. So, what's your end all feelings on the movie? Like, how would you? Are you glad you saw it, or do you have,
Um, what they should have done probably was put it in a package deal. Like, side thing, have you ever seen the movie Clue?
Yeah.
In the movie Clue, they had alternate endings.
Mm-hmm. Depending on what theater you saw it in, yeah.
What they should have done with Justice League is, package it together, maybe charge $30 for the damn DVD, and let people see the theatrical cut, and then, let them have their Snyder cut and any other edits that they happen to go on, through there. It'll still go down as a good movie, but it still won't go down as a great, DC movie.
Okay.
I gave it, if I'm going to give it a number on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it a 7.
Yeah, that's fair.
7 because it wasn't horrible,
yeah,
but it just, and as far as action adventure movies, it wasn't boring, but if you wanted to learn about your DC characters, this wasn't it. If you wanted to see development, not in this particular movie. Yeah. The only character that I think had a really good, interesting dialogue was Alfred.
I like him.
But it was okay for 4 hours to watch.
All right.
So
yeah,
scale of 1 to 10, 7.
And I say it was a mess, but it was a beautiful looking mess.
But here's another question: would you? Okay, with Tim Burton's original Batman with Jack Nicholson, I go back to watch that from time to time because it's just a thrill. You just want to watch certain things there that are like things of beauty. Would you rewatch Justice League?
I would, and I have, just for certain kind of highlights there. I would just like the moments, because really that's how I ended up watching it in the first place without taking it as bad as I probably would have. I think the way it was presented and all the time it took for it to happen and seeing the other version and all that kind of stuff, it kind of just dropped my expectations to where I wouldn't be so, hurt by it. Now, if I was just like been waiting for it forever and then saw it, I'd be mad. But it's just the fact that it just took so much for it to happen, and seeing other versions of it and just kind of knowing his interpretation of the characters, it really just kind of like, okay. So I just took it for what it was, beautiful moments, and I have no problem fast forwarding into the moments to see, as ridiculous as some of them were. Like I said, Wonder Woman throwing a bomb but doing just as much damage herself, and the slow-mo Aquaman walking into the ocean, or the Flash, saving Iris, hitting up slow-mo hot dogs from the air.
I wouldn't watch it again only because I'm big on scenes that don't necessarily have to have a whole bunch of physical action in it. I like lines. I like how Justice League doesn't have enough of that. I kind of enjoyed the beginning banter between Bruce Wayne and Barry Allen when he, broke into, I guess, Barry Allen's area, and he was showing him, I know that you're the Flash. Believe it or not, as flawed as that Wonder Woman scene is, I wouldn't mind seeing it again, because beyond that, I enjoyed the interaction between her and the girls.
Yeah.
Because they managed to show you hope, and where you could have kids looking up to them, and that's like always a nice moment. With everything else said and done, it's nice to know you could see something like that. That's inspiring.
Right.
But not enough of those type of things were in the movie to make me, want to turn it on. Similarly, on I think on YouTube, somebody had put a clip of the of Superman versus Zod, the Phantom Zone with Chris Reeves. And I looked at that over and over again because it was just something really entertaining about that fight that I'm just drawn to.
Yeah.
The pacing, the philosophy behind it. I don't think I would watch. I wouldn't trash it, but I wouldn't watch Justice League again, just because it's nothing memorable about it. It's just an action movie with a lot of fights, and I could watch fights on any movie. If I want to watch fights, I will put Kill Bill Volume 1 on and watch that to my glory. I will watch Uma Thurman butcher up everybody in that movie and enjoy that more than what I did with Justice League. Right, that's a movie we got to talk about one day on a podcast. I could watch Kill Bill just about every year and love that.
Yeah, for sure. That's a classic. All right. Well, that's our review of Zack Snyder's Justice League.
It's the ending of it, I think, was the worst part of it. I think if I didn't want to watch the movie again for any other reason, the ending of it was just a complete turnoff. I guess the future visions thing. I hate seeing Lex Luthor, and the guy's name escapes me. I hate seeing him as Lex Luthor.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenberg is a pretty good actor, but him as Lex Luthor is like, no.
He was originally supposed to be Jimmy Olsen.
Really?
Yes. You know, Jimmy Olsen died. He got shot. He died in Batman v Superman.
Yeah, and that was it.
Yeah, he's supposed to be that character.
Tell me that wasn't a pointless death. A major Superman character dies, and they treated it as like, and I think that's something else that the Justice League did that you're just kind of like, wow, all these things happen and nobody's building on it. These significant things for the characters. So,
All right. I think that's going to be it for that.